The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Una Park stepped onto Station Orbis 7 for the first time. The air smelled strange, like metal, and something sweet she could not name. All around her, aliens of every shape and size moved through the massive arrival hall. Some had scales. Some had shells. Some towered 3 meters tall with arms like tree branches. And all of them stopped to stare at her. Una was small. On Earth, she stood at 157 centimeters. Here, among the giants of the galaxy, she looked like a child. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. Her uniform hung slightly loose on her thin frame. She carried one bag over her shoulder and nothing else. A group of Caloran cadets blocked the walkway ahead. They were reptilian creatures with green scales and yellow eyes, each one standing well over 2 meters tall. The largest of them, a male with a scar across his snout, looked down at Una and let out a sound that might have been a laugh. "This is the human?" he said. His voice was deep and rough. "This is the famous Deathworlder." The other Calorans laughed with him. Una said nothing. She simply waited. The scarred Caloran leaned down until his face was close to hers. His breath was hot and smelled like copper. "I am Velos," he said. "Top rank in combat training. And you are a mistake. A political joke. The council gave your little planet a seat, and now they send us this?" He flicked a claw against her forehead. It stung, but Una did not move. "Go home, soft thing. Before someone breaks you." Una looked up at him. Her expression did not change. "Are you finished?" she asked quietly. Velos blinked. For a moment, something flickered in his yellow eyes. Then he laughed again and stepped aside. "Walk, little human. Enjoy your time here. It will not last long." Una walked past him without another word. The Galactic Defense Academy was the most famous military school in the known universe. For 80 cycles, no human had been allowed to attend. Earth was too new to the Galactic Council. Humans were too unknown, too strange, too dangerous in theory, but too weak in appearance. But times had changed. Earth needed allies, and the Council needed to understand what humans really were, so they sent Una. She found her room on the 47th floor of the cadet dormitory. It was small but clean, with 2 beds and a window that looked out at the stars. Her roommate was already there, sitting on the far bed with her legs pulled up to her chest. The roommate was Mirathi, an insectoid species with 4 arms and large dark eyes. Her exoskeleton was a soft purple color, and her movements were quick and nervous. When Una entered, the Mirathi flinched. "You're the human," she said. It was not a question, as Una said. She set her bag on the empty bed. "My name is Una. I am Rila." The Mirathi watched her carefully, like a small animal watching a predator. "They say your planet is a death world. Category 9. That is what they say? But you are so small." Rila tilted her head. "You have no claws, no armor, no venom. How does your species survive on such a planet?" Una sat on her bed and looked out the window. The stars were bright and endless. Somewhere out there, far away, was Earth, was home. "We survive," she said simply, "because we do not stop." Rilla did not seem to understand. She stayed on her side of the room, keeping her distance. That night, the Academy held an orientation assembly. Thousands of cadets filled the Great Hall, representing over 200 species from across the galaxy. Una stood in the back, alone. She could feel eyes on her from every direction. Some curious, some hostile, some simply confused. A massive creature made of living rock stood at the front of the hall. This was Instructor Gorith, the Academy's oldest and most respected combat teacher. His voice rumbled like thunder when he spoke. "You are here because your worlds believe you are strong," Gorith said. "You are here because you wish to defend the galaxy from threats beyond imagination. But strength is not size. Strength is not speed. Strength is not the sharpness of your claws or the thickness of your hide." His ancient eyes swept across the crowd. For just a moment, they seemed to pause on Una. "Strength is what remains when everything else is taken from you. Remember that." After the assembly, Una walked back to her room through empty corridors. The station hummed with quiet energy. She passed windows that showed distant nebulae, asteroid fields, the cold beauty of space. She stopped at one window and reached into her pocket. Her fingers found a small pendant on a thin chain. It was simple, made of iron, shaped like a mountain. Her brother Taiho had given it to her the day she left Earth. She remembered his words. He had been her teacher since she was 6 years old. He had trained her in the mountains of Korea, in freezing rivers and burning summers, in rain and snow and scorching heat. He had never been gentle. He had never accepted excuses. And on the day she left for the stars, it pressed this pendant into her hand and said, "Let them underestimate you, Yuna. Let them laugh. Let them think you are weak. It will be the last mistake they ever make." Yuna closed her fingers around the pendant. She thought about Velos and his cruel laughter. She thought about Rila and her nervous fear. She thought about all the aliens who looked at her and saw nothing but a small, soft, fragile thing. They measured danger by size. They measured strength by claws and fangs and armor. They did not understand what it meant to come from Earth. They did not understand what a death world truly was. Earth was not a planet of monsters. It was a planet of survivors. Every creature on Earth had been forged in endless competition, shaped by gravity that would crush weaker species. Burned by radiation, frozen by ice ages, hunted by predators and diseases and disasters. And humans had not just survived, they had conquered, not through strength or speed or natural weapons, but through something the galaxy had forgotten to measure: persistence, patience, the refusal to die. Yuna looked at her reflection in the dark window. Small, quiet, unremarkable. She smiled. Just a little. Let them think what they wanted. Let them laugh and mock and dismiss her. She had not come here to prove anything. She had come here to survive, just like her ancestors had survived for 200,000 years on the most dangerous planet in the known galaxy. And survival was the one thing humans did better than anyone. She put the pendant around her neck and walked back to her room. Tomorrow, training would begin. Tomorrow, she would show them nothing. She would be patient. She would be quiet. She would let them see only what they expected to see. And when the time came, she would teach them what Deathworlder really meant. Rilla was already asleep when Yuna returned. The Mirathi made soft clicking sounds in her sleep, her 4 arms wrapped around herself. Yuna lay down on her own bed and stared at the ceiling. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere among them was a small blue planet where Taiho was probably training new soldiers in the mountain snow. She whispered into the darkness, "I will make you proud, brother." Then she closed her eyes and slept. Dreaming of mountains and rivers and the sound of wind through pine trees, training began at dawn. Or what passed for dawn on a space station. Lights shifted from dim blue to bright white, and alarms rang through the dormitory halls. Yuna was already awake. She had been awake for an hour, stretching in silence while Rilla slept. The first week was assessment. Every cadet had to pass through the medical bay for a full biological scan. The doctors were Villani, a species of tall, thin creatures with 6 eyes and fingers like needles. They moved with cold efficiency, scanning each cadet and recording data into glowing tablets. When Yuna's turn came, the head doctor looked at her with all 6 eyes. "Human," he said, as if the word itself was strange. "We do not have much data on your species. Please remain still." Yuna stood in the scanning chamber while blue light moved over her body. The machine hummed. The doctor watched his tablet and slowly his eyes began to widen. "This cannot be correct," he muttered. He ran the scan again, then a 3rd time. Each time, his confusion grew deeper. "Is there a problem?" Yuna asked. The doctor did not answer immediately. He called over to other Villani, and they whispered together in their own language. Finally, he turned back to her. "Your bone density," he said slowly, "is 3 times the galactic average. Your muscle fibers are compressed in ways we have never seen. Your heart operates under stress levels that would kill most species within minutes." He paused. And yet you appear healthy. I am healthy, Una said. These readings suggest your body is designed to function under extreme gravitational pressure. But that is impossible. No species could evolve under such conditions and remain so. He searched for the word. Small. Una almost smiled. Earth's gravity is 1.0 standard, she said. Perhaps your equipment is not calibrated for my species. The doctor looked at her for a long moment. Then he marked something on his tablet and waved her away. You may go. But we will monitor you closely. Word spread quickly through the academy. The human had strange readings. The human was some kind of biological error. In the training halls, cadets whispered and pointed. Velos laughed loudest of all. Defective, he announced to his Kalaran friends. Humans evolved wrong. No wonder they are so weak. Their bodies do not even make sense. Una heard him. She said nothing. The physical assessments continued. Strength tests, speed tests, reflex tests. In almost every category, Una ranked near the bottom. The Kalarans could lift massive weights. The thorax, armored creatures with 6 legs, could sprint faster than ground vehicles. The Mirathi had reflexes that let them dodge laser fire. Una lifted modest weights. She ran at a modest pace. Her reflexes were good but not exceptional. The instructors recorded her scores with clear disappointment. Another weak human. Another political token. Only Instructor Goreth watched without expression. His stone face revealed nothing. At the end of the second week, the endurance trial began. This was the first true test, meant to separate the serious cadets from the pretenders. The rules were simple. March across the training field for 6 hours under 1.3 times standard gravity. No rest, no assistance. Anyone who stopped would be disqualified. The training field was a massive chamber that could simulate any environment. For this test, it was set to a rocky desert under a dim orange sun. The gravity pressed down on everyone the moment they stepped inside. Velos stretched his neck and grinned. Finally, a real challenge, he said. Watch and learn, little human. This is how warriors train. The march began. For the first 2 hours, everyone moved well. The Kalarans set a strong pace, their powerful legs carrying them forward without trouble. The thorax marched in steady formation. Even Rila, small and nervous, managed to keep up with the group. Una walked at the back, alone. Her pace was steady, not fast, not slow. Just constant. By the 3rd hour, the first cadets began to struggle. A Mirathi collapsed and had to be carried out by medical drones. 2 thorax requested rest and were disqualified. The Kalarans slowed their pace, breathing harder now. Their scales glistening with sweat, Una kept walking. By the 4th hour, the field was chaos. Cadets fell every few minutes. The 1.3 gravity, which had seemed manageable at first, now crushed them with every step. Muscles burned. Bones ached. Even Velos, the mighty Kalaran champion, was struggling. His steps had become heavy and uneven. His breathing came in ragged gasps. Una kept walking. Rila stumbled beside her. The Mirathi's 4 legs were shaking badly, and her dark eyes were glazed with exhaustion. I cannot, she whispered. I cannot continue. Una looked at her. Then, without a word, she put one arm around Rila's waist and helped her forward. Lean on me, Una said. We finished together. Rila stared at her. How are you still standing? Una did not answer. She just kept walking. By the 5th hour, less than half the cadets remained. The rest had collapsed or surrendered. The training field was littered with fallen bodies, all being tended to by medical drones. The instructors watched from an observation platform high above. Goreth stood at the front of the platform, his ancient stone eyes fixed on one small figure far below. The human had not stopped. The human had not even slowed down. She was carrying a Mirathi now, half dragging her across the rocky ground, and her pace was exactly the same as it had been at the beginning. Interesting, Goreth rumbled. By the 6th hour, only 12 cadets remained standing. Velos was one of them, barely. His proud posture was gone. He stumbled forward on pure willpower, refusing to fall, refusing to let the human outlast him. But Yuna was not stumbling. Yuna was not gasping. She walked across the finish line with Rilla still leaning on her shoulder, and her breathing was steady. Her face was calm. She looked like she could walk for another 6 hours without trouble. She set Rilla down gently and looked back at the training field. Behind her, Velos finally crossed the line and collapsed to his knees. His yellow eyes found her, and for the first time there was no mockery in them. Only confusion. Only the beginning of something that might have been fear. The medical team rushed forward to tend to the fallen. Instructors began calling out scores and rankings. But Gorath did not move. He simply watched the small human girl standing calmly among the wreckage of the galaxy's finest young warriors. That night, he sent a private message to the Academy Council. The words were written in an ancient dialect that few could read. This one was forged in fire. Accelerator combat exam. In the dormitory, Rilla sat on her bed and looked at Yuna with new eyes. The human was cleaning her boots, humming a soft song that Rilla did not recognize. "How did you do that?" Rilla asked. Yuna shrugged. "Do what?" "The march. The gravity. You carried me. You did not even seem tired." Yuna finished with her boots and set them aside. She looked at Rilla, and her expression was gentle. "On Earth," she said, "there is a type of hunting called persistence hunting. Our ancestors would chase an animal for hours, sometimes days. They were not faster than their prey. They were not stronger. But they did not stop. They just kept following, kept walking, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion." She smiled slightly. "Humans are not built for speed or strength. We are built for endurance. For patience. For the long hunt." Rilla was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "What were you humming?" "During the march?" Yuna looked out the window at the stars. "A song my brother taught me. We sing it when we climb mountains back home. It helps pass the time." "You're climbing a mountain," Rilla said slowly. "In your mind?" Yuna nodded. "The body follows the mind. If your mind does not stop, your body will not stop either." Rilla pulled her legs up to her chest and wrapped all 4 arms around them. She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer, more respectful. "I was wrong about you," she said. "You are not weak." Yuna laid down on her bed and closed her eyes. "No," she agreed quietly. "I am not." Outside the window, the stars burned on, and somewhere in the academy, Instructor Gorath was preparing a test that would change everything. The night before the combat exam, Yuna could not sleep. She lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling while memories moved through her mind like water through stones. She was 7 years old again. Standing in a freezing river in the mountains of Korea, the water came up to her chest. Ice floated past her arms. Her body shook so badly that her teeth made sounds against each other. Taiho stood on the riverbank, watching her. He was tall and lean, with the same dark eyes as Yuna. His face showed no pity. "How long?" young Yuna asked through chattering teeth. "Until you stop shaking," Taiho said. "I cannot stop. It is too cold. Then you will stand there until you learn." She stood in that river for 3 hours. By the end, her body had stopped shaking. Not because the water was warmer, but because she had learned to control the cold inside her mind. She had learned that the body was just a tool, and the mind was the hand that held it. That was her first lesson. Yuna blinked, and the memory faded. She was back in her room on Station Orbis 7, thousands of light years from those mountains. Rilla was asleep on the other bed, making soft clicking sounds with her mandiest. Another memory came. She was 12, running through a forest at night. Rain poured down so hard she could barely see. Lightning split the sky. Thunder shook the trees. And somewhere behind her, Taiho was following. This was the hunting game. She had to reach the old temple on the mountain before he caught her. If she made it, she earned a day of rest. If he caught her, she trained twice as hard the next day. She had never beaten him. Not once in 5 years, her feet slipped on wet rocks. Branches cut her face and arms. Her lungs burned. Every part of her wanted to stop, to hide, to give up. But she kept running. Because giving up was not something Tai-Ho had ever taught her. She reached the temple steps just as his hand touched her shoulder. "Too slow," he said. He was not even breathing hard. Yuna collapsed on the steps, gasping for air. Rain washed over her face. "I will never be fast enough," she said. Tai-Ho sat beside her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke in a voice she had never heard from him before, gentle, almost kind. "You are not supposed to be fast," he said. "You are supposed to be unbreakable. There is a difference." "What is the difference?" "Fast things burn out. Strong things break down. But unbreakable things—" He looked up at the stormy sky. "Unbreakable things last forever." Yuna opened her eyes. The ceiling of her room stared back at her, blank and gray. A soft sound made her turn. Rilla was awake, sitting up in her bed, her large dark eyes reflecting the dim light from the window. "You were moving in your sleep," Rilla said. "Running, memories," Yuna said. She sat up and rubbed her face. "Bad habit." Rilla was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Are you afraid? Of the combat exam tomorrow?" Yuna considered the question. "No," she said finally. "I am not afraid." "How?" "Velos will be there. He has won every combat trial for 3 cycles. He has broken bones, ended careers." Rilla's voice trembled slightly. "He wants to hurt you. Everyone knows this." Yuna got up from her bed and walked to the window. Outside, the stars were endless, cold, beautiful. "Let me tell you about my planet," she said. Rilla shifted on her bed, pulling her legs close. "Earth, the death world." "Yes. Do you know why they call it that?" "Because it is dangerous. Because the creatures there are deadly." Yuna shook her head slowly. "That is what everyone thinks. But that is not the truth." She turned to face Rilla. "Earth is called a death world because everything there tries to kill you. Not just the creatures, everything. The weather can freeze you in hours or cook you alive. The water can drown you or poison you. The ground can shake and swallow cities whole. The air itself can carry diseases that kill millions." She paused. "And that is just the planet. Then there are the predators, the parasites, the viruses, the disasters. Every single day on Earth is a fight for survival." Rilla's eyes had grown wide. "How does anything survive there?" "By being stubborn," Yuna said simply. "By refusing to die. By adapting to everything the planet throws at you, and then adapting again when it throws something worse." She walked back to her bed and sat down. "Humans are not the fastest species on Earth. We are not the strongest. We cannot fly, or breathe underwater, or see in the dark. But we are still here. We outlasted everything else. We climbed to the top of the food chain on a planet that tried to kill us every single day for 200,000 years. She looked at her hands. Small hands. Soft skin. No claws. No armor. "You want to know how we did it?" she asked. Rilla nodded. "We do not stop. Ever. When we are tired, we keep going. When we are hurt, we keep fighting. When everything says we should be dead, we find a way to survive anyway." Yuna met Riella's eyes. "That is what Deathworlder means. It does not mean we are dangerous to others. It means we survive the most dangerous place in the galaxy. And something that can survive Earth can survive anything." Rilla was silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, smaller. "What do humans fear?" Yuna thought about the question. She thought about Tai-Ho, about her parents, about the small village in the mountains where she grew up. She thought about the people she had left behind to come here. "Losing the people we protect," she said quietly. "That is the only thing we truly fear." Rilla looked at her. In the dim light, Yuna could see something new in those large dark eyes. Not nervousness. Not pity. Something else. Something like respect. "I do not think Velos understands what he is fighting tomorrow," Rilla said. Yuna lay back down and stared at the ceiling. "No," she agreed. "He does not." She closed her eyes and let her mind go quiet. In a few hours, the combat exam would begin. She would face Velos in the arena, and she would show the galaxy what Earth had made her. But for now, she breathed, slow, steady. Her heartbeat dropped lower and lower, until Rila's medical scanner gave a soft warning beep to slow. Dangerous levels. Rila looked at the scanner, then at Yuna. The human girl appeared to be sleeping peacefully, her chest barely moving. "How is that possible?" Rila whispered, but there was no answer. Yuna was somewhere else now. In her mind, she was climbing a mountain in Korea. Snow fell around her. Wind cut at her face. And at the top of the mountain, Tai-Ho was waiting with a cup of hot tea and a rare smile. She would reach him. No matter how long it took, no matter how hard the climb, because that was what humans did, they endured. They survived. They never stopped climbing, and tomorrow. The galaxy would learn that lesson the hard way. Outside the window, a distant star flickered and died. Yuna did not see it. She was already far away, walking through snow that existed only in memory, preparing herself for the battle to come. When the morning alarm sounded, she opened her eyes instantly. No grogginess, no hesitation, just calm, focused readiness. Rila watched her stand and stretch. "Good luck today," the Mirathi said. Yuna touched the iron pendant at her throat. "Luck is for people who have not prepared," she said. Then she smiled, just a little. "But thank you." She walked out the door and headed for the arena. It was time. The Crucible was the Academy's greatest arena. It was a massive chamber that could become anything. A frozen wasteland, a volcanic hellscape, a toxic swamp, a zero-gravity battlefield. The walls were lined with observation platforms where thousands of cadets and instructors gathered to watch the combat exams. Yuna stood at the entrance gate, waiting for her name to be called. Around her, other cadets stretched and prepared. Some shadowboxed. Some meditated. Some simply stared at the arena floor with fear in their eyes. The early rounds passed quickly. Cadets fought in pairs, using training weapons that stunned but did not kill. The Colorans dominated, as expected. Their size and strength crushed most opponents within minutes. The Thorax used their armored bodies as weapons, tackling enemies into submission. Even the Mirathi won their share of matches. Using speed and agility to avoid attacks and strike from unexpected angles, Yuna watched everything. She studied every fighter, every movement, every weakness. When her first match came, her opponent was a Thorax named Gorvak. He was twice her height and probably 10 times her weight, covered in thick brown plates that looked like stone. He smiled when he saw her, showing rows of flat, grinding teeth. "Little human," he said, "I will try not to hurt you too badly." The match began. Gorvak charged like a freight train, expecting to end the fight in seconds. Yuna was not there. She had moved the instant the signal sounded. Sliding to the side with a motion so smooth it looked like water flowing, Gorvak's massive body crashed into empty air. Before he could turn, Yuna was behind him. Her hand found a gap in his armor, a soft spot where 2 plates met at his neck. She pressed hard. Gorvak made a strangled sound and fell to his knees. The nerve cluster she had targeted was common to most armored species. She had studied the Academy's biological database for weeks, memorizing weak points. The match was over in 8 seconds. The crowd was silent. Then whispers began to spread. What had just happened? How had the tiny human defeated a Thorax so quickly? Yuna walked back to the waiting area without expression. She did not celebrate. She did not react to the stares. She simply sat down and continued watching the other matches. Her second opponent was faster. A Coloran female named Scytha, quick for her species, with sharp reflexes and sharper claws. She did not underestimate Yuna. She came in cautiously, testing with quick jabs, trying to find an opening. Yuna let her attack. She blocked. She dodged. She retreated. For 2 minutes, she did nothing but defend, and the crowd began to mutter. Was the human afraid? Was she going to lose? Then Scytha made a mistake. She overextended on a strike, leaving her left side open for just half a second. Yuna exploded forward. 3 strikes hit Scytha before she could react. Throat, solar plexus, knee. The Kaloran crumpled to the ground, gasping for air. It waited, Sitha wheezed. You let me tire myself out. Yuna offered her hand to help the fallen Kaloran up. You trained for war, she said quietly. I trained for survival. Survival means patience. The final bracket was announced. Unipark versus VELOS. The crowd roared. This was what they had been waiting for. The top-ranked combat student against the mysterious human who had somehow made it this far. The giant against the ant. The predator against the prey. Velos walked into the arena with his arms raised, soaking in the cheers. He was massive, even for a Kaloran. His scales were dark green, almost black, and his yellow eyes burned with confidence. He had won every combat exam for 3 cycles. He had never been defeated. Yuna walked in quietly. She did not raise her arms. She did not acknowledge the crowd. She simply walked to her starting position and waited. Instructor Gorath stood on the central platform. His stone voice echoed through the arena. The Crucible will select the battlefield. Fighters ready. The floor beneath them began to shift. Walls rose from nowhere. The air changed temperature. When the transformation was complete, Yuna found herself standing on a rocky platform surrounded by pits of darkness. This was a gravity flux zone. The most unpredictable battlefield in the Crucible. Velos laughed. Perfect, he said. My species evolved on a low-gravity moon. This is my domain, little human. Yuna said nothing. She felt the gravity around her pulse and shift. One moment it was light, almost floating. The next, it crushed down like an invisible hand. Leanderwuth Standard. Ardanley Standard. 3.0 Standard, random, unpredictable, but Yuna had spent her entire life under Earth's relentless 1.0 gravity. Her bones were built for it. Her muscles were shaped by it. Where others felt the crushing weight, she felt something familiar. Something almost like home. Begin, Gorath commanded. Velos charged. He was fast, despite his size, using the low-gravity moments to leap across the arena like a missile. His claws slashed at Yuna's head, expecting to end the fight quickly. Yuna was already moving. She flowed under his arm, using the gravity shift to change her momentum. Her foot connected with his knee. Not hard enough to break, but hard enough to make him stumble. Velos roared and spun around. He attacked again. And again. Each time Yuna was somewhere else. She did not try to block his powerful strikes. She did not try to match his strength. She simply was not where his attacks landed. 1 minute passed. 2 minutes. 3. Velos was breathing hard now. Sweat dripped from his scales. The gravity fluctuations were taking their toll. Every time the weight increased, his massive body struggled. Every time it decreased, he lost his balance. Yuna kept moving. Her breath was steady. Her footwork was perfect. She used the gravity changes like a tool, letting them carry her where she needed to be. Stand still, Velos shouted. Fight me like a warrior. Yuna ducked under another strike. Her elbow found his ribs. A warrior adapts, she said calmly. You are just swinging. The crowd had gone quiet. They were watching something they did not understand. The tiny human was not winning through strength or speed. She was winning through something else entirely. Something that had no name in their languages. The gravity spiked to 3.0 standard. Velos staggered, his legs suddenly bearing 3 times his normal weight. His knees bent. His arms dropped. Yun did not stagger. This was still lighter than the endurance trial. This was still lighter than the mountains of Korea, where she had trained with weights on her back for years. She moved forward. Her strikes came fast now, precise, targeting the same spots over and over. Nerve clusters, joints, pressure points. Each hit was small, but they added up. Pain layered on pain. Exhaustion layered on exhaustion. Velos tried to fight back, but his body was failing him. His swings grew wild. His feet dragged. He could barely lift his arms. Finally he fell. He collapsed to his knees, then forward onto his hands. His breathing came in ragged gasps. His yellow eyes stared up at Yuna, with something she had never seen in them before. Fear, Why? Yuna stood over him. She was not even breathing hard. You trained for war, she said softly. To dominate, to crush your enemies with overwhelming force? She knelt down so she could look into his eyes. But I trained for survival. To outlast, to endure, to keep going when everything says I should stop. There's a difference. Velos tried to speak. No words came out. The difference, Yuna continued, is that warriors lose eventually. Survivors do not. She stood up and walked away from him. The arena was completely silent. Then Instructor Gorith's voice echoed through the chamber. He spoke a single word, an ancient word that had not been used in generations. A word that had once been an insult but now sounded like something else entirely. Deathworlder. The silence stretched on. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. Then, another. Then, another. The sound grew until the entire arena was filled with it. Not the wild cheering of before. Something different. Something more serious. Respect. While Yuna walked toward the exit, she did not look back. She did not celebrate. She had done what she came to do. She had survived, and the galaxy would never forget it. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Within hours, footage of Yuna's victory was spreading across thousands of systems. Alien news networks played the fight over and over, analyzing every movement, every strike. Every impossible moment when the tiny human had made the mighty Velos look like a clumsy child. The word spread faster than the footage. Deathworlder, for generations. That word had been an insult. A slur thrown at species from hostile planets, a way of calling them primitive and dangerous and uncivilized. But now the word carried a different weight. Now it was spoken with something that sounded almost like awe. The day after the combat exam, Yuna was summoned to the assembly hall. She walked through corridors filled with cadets who stepped aside as she passed. Some nodded to her. Some could not meet her eyes. The mockery was gone. The laughter had died. The assembly hall was full when she arrived. Every seat was taken. Thousands of aliens from hundreds of species sat in silence. Watching as Yuna walked down the central aisle to the front of the chamber, Instructor Gorith stood on the main platform. His stone body was ancient, cracked in places, worn smooth by centuries of existence. But his eyes burned with something sharp and alive. "Cadet Park," he said. His voice filled the hall like rolling thunder. "Come forward." Yuna climbed the steps to the platform. She stood before Gorith, small and straight, and waited. Gorith looked out at the assembly. For 80 cycles, this academy has trained the finest warriors in the galaxy. We have measured strength by the size of muscles, the sharpness of claws, the thickness of armor. We have looked at the humans of Earth and seen only weakness. He paused. We were wrong. He turned to a holographic display that flickered to life behind him. Ancient text scrolled across the screen, written in a language so old that most species had forgotten it existed. This is from the original Galactic Archive, Gorith continued, written when our ancestors first began exploring the stars. It contains the original definition of Deathworld, he read aloud. A. Deathworld is any planet where the native conditions are hostile enough to produce species of exceptional resilience, adaptability, and survival instinct. Species from Deathworlds are not dangerous because they are powerful. They are dangerous because they cannot be destroyed. The hall was completely silent. We forgot what this meant, Gorith said. We saw the horrors of Earth, the predators and diseases and disasters, and we assumed that humans were victims. We saw their small bodies and soft skin and thought they were weak. His ancient eyes found Yuna. We did not understand that they were not victims of their world. They were survivors. They had already won a war that most species could not. Imagine. He stepped closer too. Yuna, his massive stone hand, reached out and rested gently on her shoulder. Cadet Park is reminded us of a truth we had forgotten. Strength is not size. Strength is not armor or claws or venom. Strength is the refusal to break. Strength is the will to continue when all hope is lost. Strength is what remains when everything else has been taken away. He lifted his hand and placed it over his chest in a gesture of respect. And by that measure, the humans of Earth are among the strongest species in the galaxy. The assembly erupted. Not with wild cheering, but with something deeper. A rumbling sound of acknowledgement, of acceptance, of a belief being changed forever. After the assembly, Yuna walked through the academy grounds alone. She needed air. She needed quiet. She needed to feel the stars above her and remember who she was. She found an observation deck on the outer ring of the station. Through the transparent walls, she could see the entire galaxy spread out before her. Billions of stars. Countless worlds. And somewhere out there, a small blue planet that had made her what she was. Footsteps behind her made her turn. Velos stood at the entrance to the observation deck. He looked different. Smaller, somehow, despite his massive size. The arrogance was gone from his eyes. The cruel smile had vanished. He walked forward slowly, stopping a few meters away from Yuna. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Velos raised his right arm and crossed it over his chest. His clawed hand pressed against his left shoulder. His head bowed slightly. Yuna recognized the gesture. It was a Kaloran salute, reserved only for those who had earned respect through combat. It was given only to equals. "I was wrong about you," Velos said quietly. "I saw your body and thought I knew what you were. I did not see what was inside." He raised his head and met her eyes. "You have taught me something, human. I will not forget it." Yuna nodded slowly. "Velos, yes. The next time we fight, bring everything you have. No more underestimating. No more assumptions." A small smile crossed her face. "I want a real challenge." Velos stared at her. Then, for the first time since she had met him, he laughed. Not the cruel, mocking laugh from before. Something real. Something almost warm. "You are terrifying, human," he said. "I am glad you are not my enemy." He turned and walked away, leaving Yuna alone with the stars. She did not have long to wait. Rilla appeared a few minutes later, moving across the observation deck with quick, nervous steps. But her nervousness was different now. It was excitement, not fear. "Everyone is talking about you," Rilla said. "The whole station. The whole sector. They say you have changed everything." Yuna shook her head. "I did not change anything. I just showed them what was already true." Rilla stood beside her and looked out at the stars. "What will you do now?" Yuna touched the iron pendant at her throat. She thought about Taiho, about the mountains of Korea, about the rivers and forests and snow. She thought about her parents, her village, the people she had left behind. "Finish my training here," she said. "Learn everything I can. Become stronger. And then," she smiled, "go home someday. Tell my brother he was right." "Right about what?" "That the galaxy would learn to fear the quiet ones." Rilla made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I do not think anyone will call you quiet anymore." "Then they still do not understand." Yuna turned to face her friend. "Rilla, when training resumes, I want you to work with me. I will teach you what I know. I will help you become stronger." Rilla's eyes widened. "You would do that? For me? You did not run away when everyone else avoided me. You asked questions when others only mocked. You are braver than you know." Yuna put a hand on Rilla's shoulder. "I think we could make a good team." Rilla's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of strong emotion among the Mirithi. "I would like that very much." They stood together at the window, two unlikely friends from opposite ends of the galaxy. Watching the stars burn in the endless dark,